Hey guys, the topic of home ownership is emotional and complex. We recently had a comment from a lady on our channel who is single but earns around £64,000 per year and still cannot get on the property ladder in the UK. And this is in Bristol, not even in London, in Bristol. Even though I know Bristol is becoming pretty expensive, she still cannot get on the property ladder at 64k per year as a single person. And by the way, 64k is not far off being within the 10% of earners here in the UK. Property prices remain really high, although prices are falling as interest rates continue to rise. The base rate in the UK at the time of making this video is at 5% and expected to continue to rise. So the idea of home ownership is no longer a no-brainer in many ways, okay? Which is why last week I made a video talking about the various things you need to consider and why I think you need to really think in this current climate, consider very strongly whether home ownership is something that you need to do, okay? Because we have this default of home ownership being the only option. I'm just saying I want to give you the information to say, should I go for it or should I not go for it? So last week's video, which I'll link to below and above, is on the reasons why home ownership might not be for you in this climate. But today's video is the other side of the story, okay? Because when I made that video last week, some people literally felt attacked. It's almost as though their dream had been ruined in some way. When in actual fact, I'm pretty much saying, as a homeowner, here is some things you need to consider carefully before you make that leap to buy a home. For this video, I want to look at the advantages, the case for buying a home. If you're somebody who still wants to go ahead and buy a house, even in this climate of really high property prices, with property prices still falling, and you potentially might end up in some negative equity down the line with interest rates still rising, if you can afford to own a home, I believe you should buy a home depending on your own personal circumstances. So today's video is all about unpacking what I see as the key advantages for owning a home. So it's the part 2 of the video from last week. If you're enjoying today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Thanks to the guys, all of you who've subscribed so far. We've exceeded 70,000 subscribers, which we do not take as a small thing at all. So a huge thank you on behalf of myself and my wife Mary to each and every one of you who continue to subscribe and support our channel. As usual, hey, hit the like button whilst you're there if you're enjoying today's video. Let's jump straight into it. I've made some notes and I'm going to keep it real as I always do on this channel and be very direct because I have lived experiences of everything I share and I'm speaking from my own experience. The first case for owning a home, if you do want to go ahead and own a home, and I should mention, by the way, when I think about home ownership, I think you need to buy it sensibly, ideally not with a crazy amount of debt. By sensibly, I mean like you might need to move somewhere else and buy a home a bit cheaper. Don't borrow too much. Aim for your mortgage to be about 25% or less before any overpayments of your net income, yeah? So that way you have money elsewhere to meet your needs and to invest for your retirement and so many other things. And then finally, you need to have a game plan for paying that thing off ASAP. That's the only way you kind of win the game. That's one way you win the game. That's one way I've experienced winning the game, and I highly suggest you go with that approach if you're actually thinking about owning a home for the long term. Now, what's the first reason why I think home ownership is a good idea? The first is looking at retirement. Now, retirement is something we can't avoid, okay? Go and spend some time with anybody in their 50s, in their 60s or 70s. If you've not done this recently, I'd highly recommend doing that. Just go and have a chat with them and see what's up. And you will see that a lot of people in those age brackets are not, they're not finding things very easy. And this is not everybody, but a lot of people are being affected in different ways by costs rising and so on. And given the fact that a lot of us, Gen Zs, Millennials, Gen Xs, a lot of these people are not saving enough for retirement, more broadly speaking, the last thing you want is to also be worrying about your home situation in retirement. You ideally want to have paid off your home in retirement. Although research does show that around, and this is research by Hargreaves Lansdown, that showed that around 1 in 6 people are not expected to have paid off their mortgage by the time they come to retire. Yeah. So If you are going to buy a home and you insist on home ownership is great. Yeah, it's for some people, but not for everybody. If you insist, then one core reason is for retirement. It will benefit you in retirement, and will give you less to worry about. Okay, that's the first reason. The second reason, looking at this, is as an income source. A lot of you will have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and of course, Robert Kiyosaki, in that book, essentially says your house is not an asset. And the reason he says that is because when you buy your house and you're all excited, you're like, I'm on the property ladder. The truth is that house that you've bought is really the bank's asset. It's on their balance sheet as their asset. On your balance sheet, which is your net worth, that asset really is a liability, although you have a net position in that home. But the point there really is your home is not really an asset unless it's producing some income. That's really the point I'm getting to. But your house could be an income source. We've had friends, we've done this ourselves, people who actually in the summer let out rooms in their homes. They let them out as guardians, for example. They let them out to international students, and they make a serious buck. And that money can then go towards overpaying on their mortgage and so on. Mary and I are super blessed. When we bought our home, the owner of the home had an outer building that they used for a dance school. And that home, that space outside the house is what I use right now. One of them is what I'm using as a studio, and one of them used to be our shed, but we've converted it into a home gym. But that came because of our personal circumstances and where we chose to leave London and buy outside the house. But the point I'm making is these spaces have now become income generating. I'm here in my home at the back of my house filming a YouTube video. So if you can buy a home that you can use as an income source, then that house that you've bought has gone from being an overall liability in many ways to becoming an asset. Okay. The third reason is because of stability and security. This is particularly important if you are in a family unit. Okay. If you've got children, Mary and I have children, and for us it's been very peaceful raising our children in a home where there's stability, and obviously if the house is peaceful, it's even more a bonus. Yeah. So having a home of your own where nobody's giving you any problems, no issues, no wahalas, no one's telling you or complaining, provided you keep it, really nice with your neighbors and you build a really good relationship, then it's a very, very good thing for that stability in family life. From a stability perspective, wealth is also built from stability. If you can live in a home where you have stability and your costs aren't going wild, then you can actually build wealth from that foundation. Again, looking at stability and security is a point around the sense of belonging. You feel like you're a part of a community, you feel like, you get to know people, and you don't always feel like you're watching your back and you might get turfed out and need to move or serve notice or whatever. Then the final bit on stability is about proximity to family members. One of the things I really love about being a homeowner is that I can go to my family members. My parents live about 15 minutes away. My sister lives about 12 minutes away. The other one is about 15 minutes away. And Mary's parents are about half an hour away in East London. So we can easily get around and meet family members. And this is very important as a family unit for childcare reasons. We're able to negotiate childcare. So that stability element of home ownership is very, very important, particularly when things go wrong. Yeah. And many things will go wrong in life, whether it's health or whether it's issues at home or whether it's just general situations. And you always need people. Yeah. So having people around and having that proximity, which comes from having stability, because you can choose where you buy your home, is a very important thing to bring up. Okay, so that's point 3. Point 4 is around equity. Yeah, equity and new opportunities. So let me speak to that. I don't know. You guys would know. I've shared information on this. If you follow me on LinkedIn, if you've not, please do, because I'm sharing quite a lot on LinkedIn every week around thought leadership, around different areas. And one area I've had a real deep interest in is in the ethnicity wealth gaps. Yeah, if you go to the Office for National Statistics and you look at the ethnicity wealth gaps, you will notice that, and I fully appreciate that a wide range of people watch our channels, whether you're black, white, Asian, or anything in between. one thing you will see from the data, and this is being data-led from the ONS, you will see that other ethnicities, apart from mine, whether you're white or you're Indian or Pakistani and so on, those ethnicities on an average level typically have home ownership rates of around 75 to 80% and beyond. Yeah? And this is, I'm talking here white British, because there's lots of different white ethnicities, yeah? And even other white ethnicities, numbers are a lot higher. But when you look at black African and look at black Caribbean numbers are a bit higher. I think it's around 40% thereabouts on average. Black African numbers are a lot lower, okay? So the point I'm making here is that home ownership, in a weird way, has actually resulted in many ethnicities building wealth over time, okay? Just by virtue of, we live in a country where we've got exceptionally high demand for property but limited supply. So demand far outstrips supply, and of course with the decisions of various central banks, the Bank of England and the government, all the decisions have been made over time, interest rates being super low over time has meant that, property prices have gone completely insane over the last 20 years more generally, yeah? So what I'm saying here is that the people who have their foot, who got their foot on the property ladder and who own a home have over time indirectly built wealth as a result of it. So that ownership is directly, whether we like it or not, and although this is not the motivation for buying a property, but it's a secondary reason, it's a secondary outcome from home ownership, is that those people have, if you look at their net worth, they've built real wealth over time, especially given those people also, a lot of them bought property at a time when they were relatively cheaper compared to, earnings, real earnings for people, yeah? So, and out of that equity that people have built off has then created an opportunity for some people to maybe release some of that equity to explore other opportunities like buy-to-let and, what have you, even buying other assets in the country or outside of the country. So I do want to stress though, to be careful, because what people have had before doesn't necessarily mean is what you're going to have right now, yeah? Because again, I just want to remind us, because, our job here is not to tell you what to do, but to give you the information for you to make your own decision. And what I'm saying here is you need to watch that previous video, because there are many reasons why home ownership might not be the thing for you and your personal circumstances, but there are also many reasons why it might be. And this is why this video exists. So equity and new opportunity is a really important point to make. The fifth reason is because you have the potential for mortgage freedom and lower costs. If one of your goals is to become financially free one day, one of the key elements of what helped us to achieve that level, get to that stage on our money journey, Mary and I on our money journey, even in our 30s, was because we paid off our mortgage early. We paid off the mortgage in 7 years. And that's meant a lot, because that's dropped our ongoing costs massively. And because our lifestyles have always been simple anyway, it has meant that day-to-day things are good, in terms of we're not having to worry about our finances actually at all, because we've made that decision over time to pay off the mortgage, and with these interest rates rising, we're not having to worry about it. So if you own your own home, you have the potential to pay off that mortgage over time. And that's a really, really big achievement to try to aim for if you can do it. And obviously with that comes the lower cost that comes attached to that, because your overall household costs become a lot lower because you've paid that mortgage off, okay? Now, I just want to say, excuse me, by the way, if you're hearing any kind of banging noise, apologies, because I've got a builder who's working just to my right over there, so I'm hoping the sound's not coming across in the video. So sincere apologies if you're getting that noise come across. Then the final point I wanted to make, and I'll wrap up this video, is around legacy. Legacy is actually a really, really important thing, particularly for people like myself who, I haven't got a trust fund. I've never inherited anything. There's no pot of gold waiting for people like me who immigrated to a country and started from the start. Yeah. So I'm just saying this to say that legacy is an important thing to you. One way you can create a legacy is through home ownership that you pass on to your loved ones and that kind of stuff. There are other ways of creating that legacy financially. One example is life insurance. If you've not seen our video with to do with life insurance, I'll link to it below and above. Please go and watch it. But the point here is generally around legacy, and property is rather a one way, and this obviously this requires that you again make the right decisions around property, because you don't want to, because there's always a cost, right? There's always a cost. You don't want to over exert yourself. I even had someone who was challenging my 25% aim for your mortgage, like aim for your mortgage before any overpayments to be 25% max of your net income. And they're like, how's that possible? And I'm like, if you've got your net income, if you've more than 25%, way more than 25% is being eaten up by your property before any overpayments, it's usually a sign that you've either overborrowed or you've bought too much property for your income and so on, yeah? Essentially what I'm saying here is legacy is a possibility if you play the game of, if you buy a property and approach it right, you make a sensible decision around property, you own it, you look to own it outright over time, you can over time create a legacy for your family. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments, okay? What are your thoughts around home ownership? I've given you the arguments against home ownership in my previous video, which a lot of you guys actually really enjoyed, and a number of you were like, well, how can you be telling me about not getting my own home when you own your own home? Someone even went as far as saying, oh, go and sell your house and go and start renting so that I can see you renting. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I'm giving you the information. Let's start with some gratitude first of all. Yeah? Anyway, I didn't want to go into that, but please watch the previous video because I think it really gives you a balanced argument. As I mentioned before, our role here is to give you information, and it's for you then to make your own decisions based on your personal circumstances, because there's so many competing circumstances that many people have. And I hope this video will help you if you are heading in that I want to own my own home destination. I hope this gives you a bit more, how should I put it, a bit more encouragement, but I stress caution, please watch the other video. And then the final point, actually, I'll add as a bonus, is inflation. If your view is that inflation will remain higher than the dream 2%, and that's my personal view, I actually think it will remain like that, then, that inflation actually works in your favor if you've got mortgage debt over time, okay? Because, again, it works in your favor because it reduces the true impact of that debt over time, yeah, if that makes sense. Guys, I'm going to stop there. If you really enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, show some love for our channel, and if you really enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it as well. But other than that, I want to hear from you in the comments. What are your thoughts around home ownership more generally? Do you believe that the only destination is to own your own home in the UK or wherever you are in the world, the US or wherever? If that's the case, what's your reason why? Jump in the comments and let me know. And I want to hear some competing arguments as well, because I don't just want you to agree with me. I want you to disagree, and it's fun, and we can kind of debate things in a respectful manner. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and as always, in all things, be thankful and seek joy. Take care. Bye for now.